Welcome back everyone. We will be now starting with the second session of the first module. Before we start with this session, let's just have a quick recap of the last session. So in the last session, we had discussed what is research methodology, what is the meaning of research, what is the objective of research, what are the types of research. In the different types of research, we had discussed about pure or basic research, applied research, exploratory research, action research. A few differences between pure or basic research and applied research are that a pure research is actually fundamental in nature, while an applied has a central purpose to solve. Pure research is actually discovery of new knowledge, theoretical. It is more theoretical in nature and it takes a lot of years actually to get the results, while in an applied research, it can infer beyond a group or situation that it is studied in. It can be interpreted, and the results are completely reliable on the basic research. So now we will begin with the second session of module 1. In this session, we will be discussing the differences between the types of research, moving towards the differences between a research paper, dissertation and thesis. And we will be also touching up on the different research methods. So let's start with the session. The different types of research that we discussed earlier. So there are a few more. One of them is called the historical research. In historical research, it is basically a study of all the past records and other information with a view to restructure them from the given sources, which are obviously authentic, and develop or discover the trends in the past. So one of the techniques which can be used to do that is the Delphi method. Since this kind of research is basically based on secondary data, so we have to make sure that the data, the source from which you're getting the data, is doubly checked, the authenticity of the data is there, and while you're extracting that data, you need to be very ethical. The second type of research is a descriptive research. This type of research tells you the who, what, why, when, where and way. These are the 6 W's. The objective of this research is to fulfill these 6 W's. So, in short, if we identify all the 6 W's of the research for any problem, we call it as the descriptive research. Now, descriptive research can be done in various ways. So, the techniques in which descriptive research can be done is by either survey or by observation studies or by secondary data. The surveys, observation studies and secondary data will be further discussed in different modules. Now, moving on to the third type, it is the experimental research. Experimental research, as the name suggests, is based on experiments. So the design is such that it assesses the effects of particular variables on a phenomena by keeping the other variables constant or controlled, and it aims at determining whether in what manner these variables are related to each other. So for example, if I say job performance is related to individual needs, personal preferences and work environment, so this type of research will help me identify the cause and the effect. The effect here is the job preference and the causes are individual needs, personal preference and work environment. So, the mathematical equation that we form is job preference is equal to individual needs plus personal preferences plus work environment. Now this plus can also be minus, it depends on the data that we get. Always remember, in this type of research, cause always precedes the effect. In the next slide, I have just listed a few differences that are evident in a descriptive research and analytical research. So descriptive research means basically fact finding and can be done through survey method I just mentioned, while an analytical research is collection of data and it is analyzed and explained. Descriptive research ascertains and describes the characteristics of the issue, And in analytical research, it goes beyond the description and characteristics. In descriptive, it describes the state of affairs as they exist at the present, while analytical explains existing state of affair from the data that is available. In descriptive, we cannot control the variables, while in analytical, it works with the constrained variables. So we can control them and follow the experiment. Moving on to the next slide. There are certain differences between empirical research and non-empirical research. Now, empirical and non-empirical, we need to understand what does it mean. Empirical research is basically which involves the collection of data. Now, this data can be either quantitative or qualitative, and it is ultimately converted into quantitative part and then may be further analyzed. Moving on to the non-empirical research. Non-empirical research does not have any form of data. So, it cannot be quantified into a form of data. Now, the second difference is empirical research, it is informed by some kind of observation or some information from the real world, but usually informed by some form of theory or conceptual framework. So, there are existing theories, we put those theories and we kind of try to analyze those from the basis of the data that is collected from the observations or the respondents. In non-empirical research, the theoretical research, there is no reference to the information about the real world, and it is like the information that is there is likely to be very limited in value. The third difference is the empirical research provides some of building blocks of research and knowledge, while non-empirical research contributes to more of review and refines the idea to place in the empirical work in context. So, basically non-empirical actually gives the theory part of the empirical. Moving on to the next slide, as I just mentioned, in empirical research there are different kinds of data, quantitative and qualitative. So, this different kind of data actually formulates into different kind of research. So, if you are doing a quantitative research, there will be certain data which can be quantified. Quantified means it can be written in the form of numbers, while in qualitative data, the data cannot be quantified directly. So, it is all usually in the form of words, maybe images, videos or audios. The data that is collected in quantitative research is usually from the participants, or it can also be financial statements, certain numbers like the Sensex that is provided. So, once we have all that data, we can analyze it further. In qualitative data, since the data cannot be quantified, so it's basically description and analysis of words in the form of themes. It is conducted in a very subjective and a biased manner, while quantitative research is conducted in an unbiased and an objective manner. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Right, so a lot of us keep on hearing that I'm writing a research paper, I'm writing an article, I'm writing a thesis, I'm writing dissertation, but we really don't know the difference between these terms. So, let's just have a brief about what is the difference between thesis, dissertation, research paper, articles. The basic difference lies in the amount of knowledge, the depth of knowledge that we get from each of them. So, if I am writing a thesis or a dissertation, it is more detailed and in-depth knowledge on a particular area. So, it is actually a microscopic view of that particular area. The difference between a thesis and dissertation usually means that if a scholar is trying to attain a degree of PhD, that's usually called a thesis. Dissertation basically relates to students who are doing their postgraduate. So, when you present a report on your post-graduation, you submit your whole dissertation there. Both are actually documents which the students write in their higher education to obtain their academic degrees. Now we come to research paper. Research papers are actually brief, they are very informative, and they give all the features that are required for a research. So the structure is same that is followed in a research paper, it's also followed in a thesis, it's also followed in dissertation. But research paper is a crisp form of a thesis or a dissertation. It usually has a lower number of objectives, lower number of research questions, and so on. We'll be further brushing up on these things as we move ahead in the modules. Research paper is actually a piece of academic writing, again, that is submitted to the journals to get academic promotion, or it is also given in the form of assessment by students in their academic institutions. Let us now move on to the last slide of this session. I'll be just telling you certain terms and terminologies which you should be familiar with in the further modules. So these are the basic research methods or the different kind of tools that are used in the research design. So a few of them are experimental experiments, surveys, questionnaires, interviews, case studies, observation trials, studies using Delphi method. I've used these terminologies in these sessions a lot, and I would suggest you to give a quick read in the reading and the course materials that we are providing so that you're familiar with them when we are explaining these terms. That's it for this session. We will continue in the next session. Thank you.